Well, we are back with some Dokkan Battle, and it falls to us, the humble Dokkan player, that the possible worst news you could get before an anniversary is coming to fruition. That is getting another blue Vegeta out of the anniversary, but not just a blue Vegeta, because I think a lot of people would say that a God's Vegeta or a blue Vegeta from the actual like Broly movie would be relatively hype. But no, it is a possible repeat of the year's previous Vegeta, which is from essentially the same exact moment as well, which is very, very amusing if the leaks are to be true. That said, why am I sort of the opinion that it certainly could be true? Why am I certainly of the opinion that this feels more and more real the longer we sort of, kick our feet, twiddle our thumbs, waiting for the reveal, which should be only in about 20 hours or something from the time of this video, maybe 24 hours from the time of this video, depending on when I put it up. But yeah, I wanted to sort of preempt the reveal with some thoughts, some maybe concerns, and some validation as to why, this is more likely than you might think, maybe more likely than you might hope, which is, of course, let's get into it. So as far as the average Dragon Ball fan is concerned, and by the way, I do not say that to be disparaging. I don't think if you're the average Dragon Ball fan, you are somehow negative to the fandom or the experience of Dragon Ball. Everyone likes what they like from the series, and I mean, guess what? We all started at different times. We all like different things, different, environments have led us to enjoy the things that we like. But to the point, the average Dragon Ball fan, TOP is the most hype, interesting thing that Dragon Ball can do. A lot of people are waiting on Super, and as a lot of you know, due to various leaks concerning the actual event being held on around the 25th, this is probably the thing that we might be getting in totality. As far as Dragon Ball is concerned, a remake of Super is on the horizon, and it could be starting with Battle of Gods and lead into, a full-on rebrand of the Tournament of Power by the end of it. Maybe Super Broly, maybe Super Heroes, though I would say that if we're thinking logically, Super Broly and Super Heroes are the definitive Super package. They highlight the strengths of the series and visually excel where Dragon Ball Super flatly did not visually excel at all. But as I said, Dragon Ball is a money-making property, as are most IPs. But in Dragon Ball's unique case, it is a money-making property for multiple top-level entities: Shueisha, Toei, Banco, and Capsule Corp, right? To think that it will be treated the same as something like Bleach might is kind of naive, right? And instead of creating new and adapting, interesting moments that might, fill the warm, create that warmth in your belly if you're a longtime viewer, retreading old material is a very commonplace practice in media in general. You think of remakes, remasters, reworks. All these things are extremely popular in, current TV and movie landscapes, right? This is some of the easiest ways to make money. Even in the case of a Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z quote unquote in the West, but Dragon Ball in general, remake people have posited. I've actually been rewatching Z quote unquote from the start of Saiyan Saga, and I'm going to be honest, it kind of doesn't need a remake. I mean, it could get one, certainly. I mean, why not? But it's really pretty, and it's from an age of art that we don't get a lot of anymore. And the varying colors of smoke and billowing energy and all of these new ideas that were very much being created at the time and have since become commonplace are locked in a sort of time capsule that is quote unquote Dragon Ball Z. So I, as someone who, loves Dragon Ball, wouldn't really need a remake of that sort either. And most people, I think, who are younger wouldn't really want a Z remake either, because it's not the thing that maybe they grew up on. Maybe they feel the most inspired by as an artist. Instead, the reason I'm panning over some of these Dragon Ball Super cards, especially the ones that released last year, is you can sort of notice how the quality of art style, not the quality of art, because obviously this is an LR from the anniversary, but this isn't. And even still, we sort of see the modernization of Dragon Ball Super through Broly and superheroes make its way into the art, the actual style. Whereas when you look at the characters who aren't LRs, when you look at the characters who are from celebrations that are a little less meaningful, like this one here, you see more of that super style, that a little bit, I don't want to be too mean because it's not fair, but a little bit more plasticky, a little bit more toy-like, a little bit more inauthentic, not really portraying any sort of, like, if this wasn't a Dragon Ball character, you could think this art piece came from something like you know, the JJK Phantom Parade game, right, where you know, regardless of the models, which are usually a little less impressive, the actual card art is usually really impressive in Phantom Parade, right? A lot of these which just hinge on the actual super style, like this one here, and this one here, even as an LR, you just see that hits shading, the highlights on his armor, like, it's just a little plasticky, it's just a little gross to me. Not saying that Dragon Ball Super has no good looking, you know, assets or anything like that. That is not what is being said. It's just that it is an issue of overall style and not fidelity. We can see here that if this loads, it's a style thing, not a fidelity thing. This is a very pretty piece of art in its totality, but stylistically, not my favorite. And that is just sort of a problem that Super has always had for me, not for a lot of other people. Obviously, Super is extremely popular, as we know. And it's why when people say, are we getting another Super, perhaps, a Super remake? I go, yeah, maybe, honestly. Because do you know what looks really good announcing a Super remake? Announcing a UI Goku and Evo Vegeta tag unit during the anniversary of the biggest game, garnering more hype for the average Dragon Ball fan, not the average Dokkan fan. The average Dokkan fan does not want to see this guy again. We are tired. But the average fan, this is essentially a blueprint on how to make money. They're like, oh my god, finally that cool moment from, you know, 7 years ago is getting like more praise, more highlight, more Dokkan original animations maybe. But it does have me a little worried. It does have me a little worried because beyond pulling for power, and it's not to say that this can't be your favorite character, right? It can easily be your favorite character. But beyond pulling for power, I don't know what someone like me would really want to pull for in this anniversary unless Daima shows up. We now know that it's probably not Namek, it's probably not Cell Saga, it's probably not Buu Saga, which means Super and Daima or GT are the obvious choices. As we sort of look at GT though, we kind of fall into the same basic issue. And I know people might be a little less hard on this because people love this guy. They love this guy. And what we could end up seeing if we do get GT is something more to the effect of these guys, where we get some nice animations and we inevitably fuse into a Vegito active skill. We could see the same thing. We get some nice animations on either card and then we fuse active skill into a Gogeta unit. And they can be gorgeous, right? There's no reason they can't be gorgeous. One of the highlights, and we've now seen this in Gekishin Squadra, was something to that effect on this Goku, who fuses into a Vegito unit with an active skill that everyone is very aware of. The cross slash, spirit sword. It's pretty cool. I just worry that coming off of this guy, barely half a year later, and he's been relevant the entire time. These guys have been relevant the entire time, though their animations undoubtedly could use an update. I do just worry that the moment we get in here, and again, coming off the back of this guy, who does turn into a Super Saiyan 4, the moment we get in here, we're going to sort of see the reveals, and the energy is going to drain from the Dokkan player base. And while you might say, well, who cares, it's just a game, the issue sort of is for Dokkan that once people decide that they're not interested in something, they stay not interested in something. And Dokkan doesn't really do a good job of pivoting out of that problem. They just lean in. And this is all just a yapping video because, one character that people are hyped for is like this guy. And one character that people are hyped for outside of this guy is this guy. And like I said, I do think with these guys coming up, it makes a ton of sense to get them paced for something here, right? So as we look at their, their links and stuff, it's not hard to imagine what this could be. But yeah, I do sort of just make this to sort of talk out some thoughts, which are just, I do think as of right now that the leaks feel very realistic. Am I happy if a Vegeta Blue shows up tomorrow, or tomorrow I guess, with a Goku tag? I don't think I am. I do think the unit will have great animations. I think people are focusing way too much on, but when the animations show up, it's like, yeah, cool, man. Nice. Tao has really good animations, but no one's ringing the bell for Tao. Obviously it's not the same, it's a false equivalency because Tao is obviously very different from a Super Saiyan, but it is just sort of things where, like I said, once people decide that they don't want something in Dokkan, you typically don't hear the end of it, and it kind of does just muddy the experience. Like, do I need to remind you that this has been one of the best characters in the game for 6 months? Arguably, to me, was always better than Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. To me, if I'm honest, a much better made character than Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. To me, if I'm honest. People don't want to hear it because they like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, but I'll tell you right now, if this character was Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and you just changed all these words to, GT heroes and super characters, you would never hear the end of this guy. People in Dokkan typically just decide when they like something, and if you show them information to the, if you show them new information or anything, they will dig their heels into the ground and they will say no. But sometimes things are what they are, and you gotta hold that. And as someone who hasn't really been paying my Dokkan subscription for the last few months, usually I pay for the $5 to $10 one to get the daily stones, which is the most I spend on Dokkan. Dokkan is a mostly free-to-play game for me. I don't really know if I'd reactivate for this. Right now I've been free-to-play for months, and it's why I tend to talk from a free-to-play space when it comes to talking about Dokkan. Because if I'm saving, I always say if I'm saving, you can be saving. And right now, it's looking like the part one of the biggest celebration in the game might be a partial skip for me. And I get, this is not to be dramatic, because I really don't want it to come off as, oh my god, they're ruining it. Because I think the celebration is going to do really well. I think it's going to be good in general. But with the weird taste people have in their mouths with the power creep, quote unquote, the power creep of Bio Broly, of Cell Max, of Gammas, the possible, retread of content. Because again, if they do TOP again, if they do GT again, we might just end up fighting, hardest fight in the game, Jiren, again. Oh, like, again, we might be fighting hardest fight in the game, Jiren. And, it's interesting. It's an interesting spot. That is one of the reasons that people the things that people don't really understand about Dokkan is the more they continue to do that, the less chances we have at actually fighting characters who we haven't seen, who have great animations, who are just trapped. Like, if we got this Gohan and this Piccolo, who have some of the best... I genuinely believe that this character has some of the best animations in the game, period. I do think that. If I put them on a list, I would say they have top 20 animations in the game. And most people don't know that, because this character was nothing. The celebration sucked. But I would love to see this character as a boss so we could see those animations, but instead, if I'm being real, we might just be seeing another fight where this is the final form. And that's a little unfortunate. But we'll see. That is a big issue, and we tend to have those fights stick around for half a year. Right? We tend to have those fights stick around for half a year. Hopefully the second part will be, you know, hardest fight in the game, you know, Daima, adult Daima, Goku, or Vegeta, and maybe those will be the animations we see a lot of. But Dokkan really likes making the hardest fight in the game Jiren or Cell Max. I will say that. Don't they like it? So we'll see. There are a lot of things that sort of stack on top of each other when it comes to Dokkan right now, and they all make me like raise an eyebrow. But yeah, a little bit of a ranty video. I have been playing Dokkan every single day, even though I've been making videos on Bleach Soul Resonance. What can I say? Bleach Soul Resonance is actually that game. Bleach Soul Resonance is actually that good. And Dokkan has been in a dry period as we wait for Anniversary. So, you know, I'll leave posting about Dokkan to the truth, you know? I mean, does anyone want to see me post about Ultimate Gohan and Gamma 1? No. Come on. But that's all for me for now. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the club. We all go make it, and peace.